Did you know that there is a whole other world of music for games that works and pays very much like stock music? In fact, it pays better than stock music. The splits are better. It's a completely different world that we haven't even tapped into yet on this channel, and maybe you haven't even heard of this. I hadn't heard of this. I first heard about this from one of my coaching clients, and he told me about this, and I was blown away. And by the way, congrats, Joe, for getting into Motion Array. Glad I was able to help with that, and good luck with that library. Anyway, Joe introduced me to my guest today, Stephen Melin. I actually learned about Stephen when I was doing some research for this channel, Make Music Income. He was doing a video about the different kinds of music income he has. We're going to talk a lot about that today. At this point, Stephen has really become the preeminent authority on music for games, and mostly he works in the 2D game area, Switch, and apps and things like that. But music for these, you would not believe it. There is a need for music for these games. When I went to search these libraries, I was shocked by the amount of libraries there are and the fact that they are looking for music very similarly to the way that we are putting up music to stock music. We will go over the libraries at the end of this video, so hang in there for that. So what is up with this world of songcraft I had never heard about? This is a whole new world of passive music income. Playing music for people playing games. Can this be a real thing? That is what we are going to investigate today. Do you want to play a game? If you are new to the world of uploading your music to music libraries, then make sure you get our free course, How to Upload to Pond5. Pond5 is absolutely the best place to start your uploading experience and figure out how to work with music libraries, what kinds of things you're going to need up there, putting your description up there, putting your tags up there. I just think it's the best place. As a matter of fact, I did a whole video about it right here, and I talk about exactly why I think it is the best place for you to get started. You can watch the free video course, How to Upload to Pond5, right here, or go to makemusicincome.com/free. So just imagine that there was a whole other world. And it was just like stock music licensing. It was micro-licensing for sure, but it was all about music behind games. And I'm not talking about necessarily PlayStation games, although this could be part of that world. But I'm talking about the kinds of games you play on your phone, the kinds of games you might play on a Switch, the kinds of 2D games and different kinds of games that you might play on some kind of gaming system. Could this be another way to add pennies or dollars to your monthly income? Shoot, I'd take it. As a matter of fact, from what I hear, solo piano is very popular in these game music platforms. So I may be looking into this in 2022 for more passive income since I do a lot of solo piano work. But as you'll see, they're also looking for orchestral and all sorts of kinds of things. So how does it work? Is it a real income? Is it a growing market? Luckily, composer and producer and author Stephen Melin agreed to talk to me in an interview about this subject. We get into lots of things, especially the difference between passive and active music income, the difference between stock music and music for games, and where Stephen sells his music products and what he calls his music systems that create automatic music income. We also talk about his channel and his group coaching style of live streaming. In this video interview, you won't believe some of the stuff Stephen talks about, including the favorable splits for composers in game music. In fact, what are we waiting for? Let's talk music for gaming with Stephen Melin. Hey folks, today I'm excited to talk to Stephen Melin. So man, so glad to have you here. I've been watching your videos and have seen you online for a few years now as I've been building my channels, and just super excited to talk to you today. I love entrepreneurs who are really into this. Now, also, we're going to do a composing interview for our composing channel. So some of the composing questions I will ask you later as far as how you compose and your goals as a composer. And I just watched another video where you talked about templates, and I love to talk about that kind of stuff too. But we're going to put that in the composer video. But here in the Make Music Income video, we're going to ask the same question I ask everyone at the start of every single interview, and that is, how do you make music income?
Fantastic question. And thank you for the kind words there. Man, I tell you what, so I'm 31 right now, about to be 32. I've officially been writing music, I guess, about 16, 17 years, actually making money from it. Wow. So if you do the math, that means I was making money in my teens, writing music for commercial video games, films, ads, royalty-free music, whatever. So I figured this thing out pretty early that, wow, I'm still in school. I can make some money, even though I'm not good. And it is truly through the repetition of going through the motions and figuring it out, right? Experimenting what we can do with music. Because I think if you treat music as an asset, as a product, you could sell it in infinite ways. And we can certainly dive down the rabbit hole of any of those topics if you wish. But in general, I find that there's a few buckets that you can make money with music. And they're going to change as time goes on, as different technologies emerge and such. But in general, there's the royalties bucket, where you can write a piece of music and you can sell it somewhere and make money from it every single time it sells. So it's a product. There's the custom music route, where you can write for a project, but generally you're not going to make much on the back end. It's mostly an upfront buyout fee. But you can take those tracks and put them in a soundtrack, and you can do streaming income. You can do music packs, and you can do things like that. And then on the other side, you have the education side, where you can teach other people how to do music, which I know you and I both love to do as well. So there's a whole gamut of intricacies with those. But in general, I have roughly 25 to 30 different income streams that on a monthly basis are kind of ebbing and flowing. Some are really high some months, and some are really low. And collectively, it creates a very sustainable business for me, and I can support my 5 kids, and I can actually do this thing. And I'm the sole income for my family. And I think that's a goal and a dream for many composers. And that's why I teach what I do. Because it's possible.
Well, so what would be your main ones if you had to pick 5 that pay the bills?
That has changed throughout the years based on my interest and based on the amount of effort I put into something. Because there is a rate of return based on the amount of time you put into one of these avenues and how much you actually get on the back end.
Sure.
So a small example of the worst possible thing I could do with my time is create sheet music. I love doing it, and I did it for a long time, but we're talking pennies per sale when you sell sheet music, and that's a lot of time going in, right? So that's a really bad ROI. You might do it for fun. It might be a part of what you do, but that would not be a good use of my time. But you flip the script. Custom music has always been bread and butter, but that's active, right? That is trading my time for dollars. And I'm at the point right now, as the time of this recording in 2022, that about 40% of my income is passive, 60 is active. Active meaning I'm truly trading my time for dollars, and I'm doing something in exchange for money, right? And my goal is to flip to 80%, 20%. I want 80% to be passive, right? And so every single year that percentage is climbing as I build more products, I put more things out into the world. So top 5, custom music is definitely one, but that's not one I'm trying to focus on. That's not one I'm trying to grow. That is consistent, but if I don't want to work for a month, what would I do, right?
Yeah.
I need income coming from other places. So if we're talking just about the passive side, for me personally, game music packs have been a really big one lately. Over the last year in particular, the Unity asset store, so for people who write video game music, it's one of the best places that you can package up tracks and sell them. And I'm still experimenting with pricing. Again, at the time of this recording, I have a few months of data showing that around the $100 mark per product is a really good spot to be, because you can sell thousands of those. I'm experimenting with what if we increase it to several hundred per? Is that going to get enough sales. So that's a really big one for me right now. Another one, it kind of fluctuates. Another one would be the education side. There will always be a need for education. It's not music per se, but it's teaching others how to do what we do. So courses are a really big income revenue source. And I also have a sample library company. So if you're interested in creating tools to help composers, it kind of goes hand in hand with the education side. It's a way to equip them with the tools they need to do it. So by creating, it could be software, but in my case, it's actual sample library instruments, such as all these random things you see behind me. I like to record them and program them, and it's just kind of a nerdy way to make tools. Another one is, as an educator, I like to write. So what was once a blog, it turned into a book, Family First Composer. So that's something that continues to sell well. And there's a host of things. I'm not even sure that was 5, but royalties continue to be a really big part. Even though the bulk of what I do is video game music these days, I still have years of a catalog, hundreds, probably even thousands at this point, of pieces of music that are out there working for me. So I still get royalty checks from pieces of music that land on TV shows and advertisements and commercials, and that just keeps rolling in. And occasionally I'll spend a couple days writing more tracks. I don't advertise that I'm doing that. It's not part of my public persona, but why the heck not? If I have some margin in my time and I enjoy writing different things that are not necessarily video game music, I can kind of scratch that itch, write some inspirational corporate-y things over here or some dramatic things over here and go send those off and they go make some more money. So to sum it up, that's a lot of things, but do what you can right now to prepare for the long term. I think most people get so hung up on the short term. How much can I make right now? But they're not thinking about 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, 5 years down the road. And really, you could say that I'm truly about 6 years into being a full-time musician. Maybe, I guess it might be 7 or 8 years. COVID has screwed up my sense of time, as for many. But I found that as a full-time musician, I'm only really now, like, let's just say 8 years later, I'm now starting to see the fruit of the seeds I planted 8 years ago. The products I created then, they made some money back then, but what was tens of dollars from streaming turned into hundreds, now thousands. What were courses that were, again, making hundreds are now making thousands and then tens of thousands. And same thing with royalty music. It's like you have to start somewhere, but what is so cool is you end up building an arsenal, like an army of products, little products that are just working for you all the time, to the point where it does become this reliable, sustainable income. And you can't drop off the face of the earth forever. Like, you can't just stop working, but you don't have to output quite like you used to. Because I used to put so much music out, but now that consistent income is real, I basically get to write as much or as little as I want to. And that's a huge freedom that I preach from the mountaintops. For any musician that wants that flexible, autonomous lifestyle, build products.
Do you sell all these things through your website? Is that the main hub for where everybody buys things?
You might be surprised. The answer is no. I try to create systems that do the work for me. Part of having an automated lifestyle, of truly having income that is consistent, is to build systems that work with or without you, right? So email sequences that sell things for you when you capture leads. So I'm really big into the business side of things. And that's the main way that I do custom music, but that's not super reliable. But if we're talking about products, like the Unity Asset Store, the Unreal Marketplace, itch.io, Game Dev Market, like these are real marketplaces that I can put my game music. And because I've done research in figuring out what are good titles, what are good search terms. That way, when people go to that site, they're going to find my stuff. And because of all the reviews and everything, the ratings, there's a really high chance that people are going to buy that. And then they enter my funnel and I can kind of nurture them along to buy more things. So it's this whole automated process where I create YouTube videos to get people in for free. And I used to have a podcast I did stop that, but I have a SoundCloud account, and like I have places that people are going to find me through my soundtracks, through my education content, right? Book, through courses, and they're going to kind of enter at the surface level of, oh, who is this guy? What does he do? We can have talks like this with other creators, and inadvertently my name gets out there into the world when you search for certain things like music composition and video games and whatever. And what's happening is people are building trust, and they're slowly buying things, and it's a funnel, right? It's a sales funnel where people slowly move over time.
Graham Cochran type stuff.
100%. I love Graham. Yeah.
But the 60% of non-passive, is that creating work? Is that doing work for clients, music-wise?
Yes.
Okay. And these are clients that have need for music for gaming, or all sorts of different needs?
It used to be everything, but for me, I've seen the most success in the video game lane as soon as I started to specify and really find a niche and really focus hard on one type of client. And I'll even go so far that I only work on one type of video game, which is very exclusive. I only work on 2D adventure video games.
Right.
And in that way, I become the guy for that thing, in the same way that I teach other composers to do that. I don't
think I would have known. When you say 2D, you mean mostly like phone games and things like that?
It doesn't have to be mobile, but sure, it can be.
A lot of times it is, or Switch stuff, or
kind of like modern retro.
Yeah,
Switch
right.
is a great example of that. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the history of this channel, of your YouTube channel. So, because I'm going to point everybody here to see, that if they want to follow what you're doing, because a lot of people that are interested in stocks. To me, I have a lot of people who follow this channel, and most of them are interested in stock music licensing. And I see the game music licensing side as part of this whole, as a very similar kind of area. I don't have time to look into it. I took a cursory glance. One of your, I don't know, students or friends, or the guy who connected us, Joe O'Rourke. Shout out to Joe. But he's been doing that and has kind of, he explored stock, he's explored sync, but he's into the to the Unity platform and things like that. And for some people, that's just going to make more sense. So tell us a little bit about how you went from composer who does everything to really focusing on that genre.
Sure.
That niche.
I think it boils down to, what are you the best at? What are you the most passionate about? And what are you the most marketable at? And that's kind of the sweet spot for any career, right? You need to find something that you're deeply passionate about, but if it doesn't pay the bills, it's just going to be a hobby, right? Which is the case for most musicians. It also has to be something that you're marketable at, and that's the hardest part for most musicians, because they don't understand what does the market need versus what am I good at creating. And there's a disjunct there. So often composers will go to these stock music sites or the game music sites, and they'll listen to the examples and they're like, oh, I can do that. And then they'll try, and they fall very short of the quality expected, right? And they wonder, why don't I get sales? Why don't I figure this out? So you have to know that about yourself. And I think that's one of the joys of community. There are so many communities out there now. I actually run a community called Video Game Music Alliance. We have a free Discord, but we also have a paid membership, which we only open a few times a year. That's a brand new thing as of this year. And the students in there, including Joe, are kicking butt.
Is that adding to the passive side of your...
Absolutely.
Would you call that passive or non-passive, since you have to...
To be determined. It's kind of in between.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of my time, but it's like group coaching in a sense. We're all working towards the same goal, But the idea is, when you're in a community like that, you can find out really quick when you start sharing your music with others and tapping into the hive mind. It's almost like the masterclass idea, the mastermind idea of it's that group wisdom, right? You're going to learn really fast if you're good at this or not. And if not, cool, I'm going to tell you, and you're going to move on to something else. And maybe you should try film. Like, maybe we should just go over there. But the beauty of video games in particular is it's accepting of all types of music. However, it's not accepting of people who don't know what they're good at.
Yeah.
It's a very thin line there. It's very subtle where, for example, one of the guys in our group, is exquisite at writing solo piano music.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of video games, like you don't think of solo piano, but then video games like The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which is one of the biggest smash hits ever in the last few years on the Switch, it's almost exclusively solo piano music, and it's very avant-garde, and it sounds like something straight out of classical, like Bartok or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting and poignant. And what I've been encouraging this student to do is, okay, you're going to be the solo piano guy for video games. Let's go see how this does. Yeah. And sure enough, it's only been a couple months, but he's making his mark as the guy who does that thing. And
okay, I may have to revisit gaming music now because I have a solo piano brand and it's just all sitting out there. Now, do you have any troubles mixing stock stuff that's in stock, royalty-free stuff, with stuff that's in gaming? Is that also royalty-free? I'm guessing.
This is where things get a little tricky. So when you go to a video game music site, right? You go to Unity.
Yeah.
They have their own licensing terms that are different from the Unreal Marketplace and their licensing terms and all the big game
that's
engines,
the same
right?
with all stock libraries. But yeah, go ahead.
Sure. It's tricky. I don't think anyone quite knows. Meaning there is no standard. It's so new. It's so fresh that no one's really considered the legality side. Functionally, it's the same thing as a stock music site where it's royalty free because everyone's using it, and that technically would be the terms from the site, and you have to treat it like that. But game music is treated differently when we talk about PROs, like performing rights organizations, because here's what a lot of my students are actually running into. When you register video game music with a PRO, and then a video game developer or a Let's Play YouTuber wants to showcase the game that has your music on it from one of these sites, they will get flagged over and over and over again because of the copyright strikes. So YouTube has not figured this out. Spotify has not figured this out.
So that could be a content ID situation.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's they have not caught up because it hasn't been around for long, right? This whole music pack thing for video games has not been around to figure out the legalities of the end user, which in a video game, right? It's not custom music. So
we have been really getting into the how content ID works because we feel like in stock music, content ID has become the PRO of stock music, basically. So if you are in sync licensing, when we're doing stuff for TV and film, we have the upfronts and we have the PROs, right? And we have the two sides. And now we've figured out in stock that we pretty much, especially with the last of the big payers going down, which was Motion Array, which was paying really well and now has done a drastic cut in January of what it's paying authors. Just like Pond 5 did at one point, just like Audio Jungle did at one point. They've had a course correction. And so now it's all about the downloads and the YouTube plays, which are tracked by some company that you hire, like Identifier, AdRev, or someplace like that. And that music is tracked. And a copyright claim is not a terrible thing. It's not a strike. It's just a claim. But your people who are showing off these video games probably want to build channels and monetize their videos.
Exactly. So there's a lot of bad feelings about that.
Well,
so the game developers don't want that to happen. So
and it's up to Unity to clear that. But they probably don't want to do that. Maybe, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that side of it works. Other than I've encouraged my students not to do it. Like, don't register your video game music, which seems so counterintuitive.
With
as a
content ID,
you
mean, or PROs, or what, or both?
I'd say both. I say don't do either, because of the amount of headaches it causes and the relationships it ends up hurting because of how many people play video games in a YouTube setting versus film and TV, which of course has been protected for so long.
Because Twitch, I wonder, I guess, does Content ID collect from Twitch as well? Because Twitch would be another big one for that kind of
Possibly.
thing.
I'm not sure.
I didn't even think about Twitch.
But you can see the problems.
Suddenly
because there's such a lack of clarity in that space. So it's still a great revenue source for me, and I highly encourage people who want to get into the video game space, by all means, go release these packs. Just understand what you're getting yourself into, that there are going to be some legal troubles or copyright claiming content ID troubles if you try to also register those, like in the same way you would TV and advertising.
So in gaming music, and I want to kind of concentrate on this for this video because you're probably going to be one of the most expert people I talk to on this subject on this channel and who makes income from it. I know it's only a piece of your income, but it's actually a pretty big part of your brand because this is your academy or whatever you call it, and this is your main composing love is for these kinds of things. When you sell songs, do you sell individual songs? Do you sell packs or both?
The site is open for you to sell whatever you want, but personally, I've done two experiments so far. I've sold 12 track albums that are in one style with custom art behind them. They look really nice, and those have done okay. But then later, after doing some actual proper market research, I learned that the really large packs sell way better. So I created a 500 track album, which was insane, and it's incredible, and I love it, and it has a lot of live music in there, live orchestras. Like I went all the way, and that thing actually became one of the best-selling packs on Unity immediately.
How long are these pieces?
2 to 3 minutes. They're about
500 2 to 3 minute pieces.
Yeah, it's a lot of music, and the game devs are going nuts about it, and that is hopefully leading to some custom work as well.
Right.
I've already been in contact with some guys who are like, oh my gosh, now I need to hire you. It's just so good. And that's exactly what you want. That's what I want everyone to experience. It doesn't mean everyone can release such a thing.
Are other people releasing that kind of thing now?
No.
Yeah.
Not to that extent.
Well, that's because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Stephen.
I know I had an edge. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be wild. And my secret to that was I went onto my computer files, and I found as many tracks that were unfinished as I could possibly find. Yeah. And then I would spend about 5 minutes putting a period at the end, creating it like a 1 minute loop or creating the 3 minute track, whatever. And I just have hundreds of these things.
So some of these 500
cool
are other versions of the same song? Or are they?
Define, what do you mean?
Like you have a song and then you have a 1 minute loop version and then you have
Nope, 500 unique tracks.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Way to go. That's a lot of work.
So that was a cool...
How many of those 500 packs do you have? Just one? Or
just one? Yeah.
What do you think the future is in this industry? Is it growing? Is it something that's? You said it's new to a certain extent. So obviously, gaming is not shrinking in general.
Yeah. There are more games than there are composers.
Right.
And technology is just continuing to become more homogenous. Right. I don't know what the future of technology holds, but I mean, the fact that a phone can do anything, like, and I'm actually, I'm a big Nintendo fanboy, and my brain is just blown that as long as I've had a Nintendo Switch, that device represents truly for the first time the emergence and the merging of handheld and console gaming into one at the same quality. And now coming out, Steam is about to come out with the Steam Deck, which is PC gaming on the go. It's almost identical to the Switch. It's just the PC branding. Yeah. And I have a prediction that Apple's about to jump into the gaming space. That's just my own thing. Why wouldn't they? I mean,
well, arcade has been
something's going to happen
growing
soon that it's just going to become more and more normal and more accessible and more. I don't know where VR stands in all of this. It's kind of been a fad for a while. Hasn't become mainstream, obviously. But something is coming where the need for music is only rising.
So yeah, a whole new music income. As promised at the beginning of this video, let's look at a few of the libraries that you could start to look at to put your music on for this gaming music world. The big gun seems to be Unity Assets Store. Now, I don't know a lot about this store, but this is probably the first one you want to look at. As I've heard Stephen and Joe talk about how to make music income, this one seems to be the one they talk about, and you can find that at this site. Other libraries include the Unreal Marketplace, itch.io, and Game Dev Market. I'll put links to all 4 of those libraries in the description of this video. I will also put links to Steven's site in the description below. Go watch his videos and find out more about this crazy, amazing new possibility that you hadn't heard of before. Take a look at this video about some of the new things I'm doing for 2022. Gaming music may end up being one of them, but it wasn't part of this video. So here's some new things that I'm doing. Thanks for watching.